Jeff, if you could please describe the Colorado Open Records Law. Are there any current issues that journalists are having in relation to that law?
Yeah. So the Colorado Open Records Act, or CORA, is one of two records laws in Colorado. The other one concerns law enforcement records. CORA pertains to um, the records of state and local government that aren't law enforcement records. And there's a difference between the two laws as far as the presumption of openness. So in CORA, you can presume that the records you're interested in are open for inspection, unless there's either something in CORA itself, something elsewhere in state statute, or in some court ruling that says that either the government can withhold the records, it has discretion to do so, or it must do so. So uh, you should always try. You should always ask, and let them tell you why you can't have these records. And you're entitled to that written explanation with a citation to the statute and explanation. So there are all sorts of reasons that public records get denied. Sometimes they're very legitimate reasons, and sometimes we find that records are withheld for questionable reasons, and we fight those denials. And CFOIC, one of the things we do is sometimes get attorneys involved to help reporters and members of the public do this. And we have a lot of resources for reporters these days. So a common denial of records that is often used, which is not necessarily a legitimate use, is for what's called personnel records, personnel files. That means that records about a public employee's job performance. There are court rulings that say that governments can withhold personal types of records about a public employee, their home address, their home phone number, their personal financial information, but not necessarily the records about their job performance. So if you get a denial like that, then it's a good idea to contact me and see if we can try to fight that. So that's one example of something that frequently comes up. Another issue that can make it more difficult to get public records in Colorado is cost. So there can be fees associated with obtaining public records. And we're not talking about just copying fees, we're talking about what's called research and retrieval. So finding the records, assembling them for you, and then often reviewing them, sometimes by an attorney, to make sure that they don't put something out that either can't go out or they have discretion to withhold. And so they can charge by the hour for that after the first hour. And sometimes those costs can get very expensive. So that's where the advocacy portion of what we do comes up. We're trying to make the law better in that respect.
Is there a time limit that they have to respond?
Yes. So the time limit in the CORA is actually pretty good. It's 3 working days. You sometimes hear stories about the Federal Freedom of Information Act, people waiting months or years to get public records. It's not supposed to happen in Colorado with CORA records. There are allowances for extending that period if, quote, extenuating circumstances exist. The problem sometimes is that there's really no penalty if they don't abide by that. Your recourse would be going to court to sue them. And people generally don't sue over an issue like that because by the time it gets resolved, you have your records probably. So it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but you can just remind them of what the law says and pester them in a nice way.
Okay, thank you.